Recently, I was working on a small project and I needed a stadium as a nice looking backdrop, so I dove into the scary world known as ending your Google search with free 3D Blender, looking for some free stadium 3D models, but to no avail. I didn't come out with anything that I thought was a fit for the project. I ended up settling with an HDR image stadium, but it still wasn't exactly what I wanted. Then I had a thought, what if I made my very own stadium model from scratch? I didn't even know how hard it would be or if I had the capability to do it, but why not give it a shot? Oh, and also I need video ideas really bad right now. Seriously, if you have any video ideas, let me know. It's been like 3 months, I'm already out. My main concern about this project wasn't the design of the stadium or if my PC could handle the immense amount of grass particles I would need to render for the pitch to look good, although that wasn't a close second. No, my main concern was the seating. I wanted the stadium to have a fairly decent capacity, and I really didn't want to place down tens of thousands of seats at slightly different angles at all different parts of the stadium. So I did what any person would do when faced with a difficult task. I looked it up. Yeah, it wasn't a big deal at all. I just needed to add an array modifier, which basically duplicates the object, except actually doesn't duplicate the object, and then set the array to go along a curve. The seats do get slightly warped, but it's only noticeable along the seats at the very edge, so I removed those. But then I realized that I wanted the ground to completely go around the field with no gaps, so I worked on getting the shape I wanted to be just right. I got the dimensions of a soccer pitch to make sure the shape would be the right size. I wanted to make the ground deck seating a little bubbly and not just straight lines. I thought it would look cooler and make it seem like I worked harder on it, which, oh my, I did. Oh my, I did. The seating took a while to get right because Blender doesn't have a be normal and don't warp my object with instancing it button, so I had to do a workaround I found to not warp the seats. And even then, for some reason, there's still 2 seats that slightly overlap. I still don't know why, but it's not that big of a deal. I was just gonna fix it when I added the stairs, cause I needed to remove a bunch of seats anyway. Now that the seating shape is sorted, I started working on getting the actual stadium structure up. Actually, now that I think about it, it might have been smarter to make the stadium structure first and then put the seats on top of that. But, well, it's too late now, I guess. To get the same exact shape as I used for the stairs, I just copied the curve I used as a line for the seats to follow and used that as a starting point. Ooh, now here's a really satisfying part. IMO at least. This is where the stadium really starts to come together for the first time. All I'm doing is duplicating the stairs up into the side a little, and because of the array thing I did earlier, it wraps around the entire stadium. Looks pretty insane style if you ask me. And here's the whole first deck with all the seats in place. Well, one section of the first deck with all its seats in place. There's going to be another section behind it, so don't get too comfortable yet. Oh, and it appears that the Blender gods have blessed us on this very video today. Or I guess whenever you're watching this, which would still be today, I guess. But anyway, wow, another satisfying clip of rows of seats getting deleted to make room for the stairs. Truly a miracle. Oh, and also what happened to the cool color from mode I was in earlier? Oh, wow. Yeah, there it is. Right on cue, look at that. Well, alright. Here I'm just adding some stairs so people don't have to do an omega steps to get to their seats. Oh yeah, remember what I said like one paragraph in the script ago about another section of the first deck? Yeah, that's what I'm adding right now. It went a lot smoother this time because like, I don't know, practice makes less bad or something. And then to add the seats. I just had to do the same thing with the curve and the array and everything as I did with the first section. But as you can see here, I have no idea what I was doing. So I guess practice makes more bad sometimes. Look, the seats are like sideways and everything. I figured it out eventually, it's fine. If I didn't figure it out, you wouldn't be watching this right now. But seriously, like, what am I doing in this clip? Yay, look, me from a month ago finally figured it out. Good job. Now I'm modeling an entrance so people can actually, like, get to their seats. It was pretty straightforward. I did have to delete a bunch of seats, though, to make this cool looking pattern for the stairs. So that took a while. I also added some handrails to the side of the entrance with a Barnaby for scale, of course. Now that I finished the first deck, for now at least, I started working on the second deck. Unlike the first deck, however, I didn't want the stands to go all the way around in one single oval. I wanted 4 separate stands, one for each side of the stadium. I still wanted them to be curved though, just to make my life a little bit more difficult. Oh, and there's also a second section for the second deck too, and the stairs with the entrances were added up here as well. It's time to add some actual color to this thing. However, when I applied the texture that I wanted to use for the seats onto the actual seats, I realized something. I made a massive mistake. I wanted the main part of the seats to be one solid color, so that wasn't the issue here. But I also wanted a small metallic tag to go in the middle of the seat, and also the seat supports on the back to be a separate color. But I didn't do either of those things to the original model before I duplicated it thousands of times. I tried a few different solutions, but none of them worked. It was too late to go back. There was only one way I could fix this. I'd have to redo almost everything that you've already seen. It's done! I remade everything as it was before, just slightly better. You can't even notice anything changed unless you look really close. Was this a waste of time? Maybe. Do I regret it? Maybe. But it's done. I did it. Now to move on from this mess. I needed to make a hole here where all the entrances were so that you could actually use them as an entrance. It took a while to do and there was definitely a better way, but that way might have been more complicated, and after having to remake all that, I guess I just wanted to do something simple. Now back to the second deck. Even though I've only done 1 out of 4 sections of the second deck at this point, I'm already halfway done due to the power of duplication and rotation. Now I started working on the second half of the second deck. I also wanted this to be slightly curved, so I did that whole thing again. It's just mostly the same thing that I did for all the other seating sections, so I'll just skip to the end. I wanted to have something between the gaps of the second deck. I ended up putting some balconies for social areas inspired by concept art for a soldier field redesign. It's now time to add the final and largest deck. This one was going to be one big bowl with no gaps again, so I worked on getting the shape right. It was, once again, pretty straightforward. I had already done this 4 times before, so I shouldn't have had any more problems here, and surprisingly I didn't. It was the easiest deck by far, but of course, I couldn't let myself all that easy. In the same soldier field redesign concept art I showed earlier, there's this big wall of skyboxes. I thought that looked pretty cool, so I tried to do something similar. I started by deleting a bunch of seating on one side of the third deck, then I made that part flat so I can make the skyboxes on top of it. I added 3 rows of seating at the front of the skyboxes just in case any of the rich people actually wanted to watch the game. Made some fancy schmancy glass windows and doors behind the seats, and a very rudimentary interior, cause interiors, am I right? Haha. To complete the skyboxes, I added railings to all the stairs, cause building codes or safety or something, I don't know. And this was actually a good opportunity to add handrails to the entire stadium, so I went ahead and did that real quick. And by real quick, I mean over the course of several hours. I copied the skyboxes I made and stacked 2 more on top of the original, for a beautiful wall of skyboxes. I don't have a transition, so I'm gonna scream quietly. Let the exterior building commence. I don't go into anything with a plan, including this project. I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do for the exterior even 30 seconds before I started making it. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. All I know is I haven't started talking about the exterior yet. Windows? They're great. They let light through usually. Since the one thing I did plan for this stadium to have was an overhang, I knew there wouldn't be much light in the stadium without windows. So yep, I put giant windows behind the top deck of seats. Also, it just looks cool. Above that is going to be the overhang or roof or whatever you want to call it. I went for a clean and simple design for the overhang because I kind of want the entire exterior to be clean and modern. I just added a few details so the roof is less bland. For such a big roof, you're going to need a lot of support. Now, I'm no engineer, but I do know that metal beams look awesome, so I put metal beams under this roof. And what's better than cool metal beams under a roof? That's right, cool metal beams over a roof. I went for a very exposed roof support system. I think it has a nice contrast with the rest of the stadium being super sleek, and with some copy and paste and mirror modifier action, the support wraps around the whole stadium, just like that. I wasn't sure exactly what to do with the rest of the exterior below the big windows, so I went and looked at real life stadiums. The exterior of FNB Stadium in South Africa really caught my eye. I liked the gradient and the unique choice of colors, so I tried to do something similar. I failed miserably. So instead, I did something kind of similar, but actually not that similar now that I think about it. Well, kinda. I don't know. Decide for yourself. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But anyway, I made this purple and blue glass thing along with black going on every other pane. I don't really know what it's supposed to be, but I think it looks pretty cool. This is what the whole exterior of the stadium looked like rendered this far into the project. I really liked it, but it was way too bland, so I didn't really add any more details because details are for nerds. Haha. Got 'em. Going even further outside, the stadium's surroundings are a very vital aspect of this project, is what I would have said if you asked me 2 weeks ago. I wasted so much time on the surroundings of the stadium and it was not worth it. It would have taken way too long than I was willing to commit to have a detailed outside surrounding the stadium, so what I ended up doing just looks kind of sad. It's not even good enough to have footage that lines up with the script. I've just been showing you some messed up collage of a bunch of random stuff I was doing to try to make the outside look decent with minimal effort. Actually, not even with minimal effort. I made entire elevated train tracks from scratch. Just that took me hours. And I don't even know if there's any shots where we'll be able to see them. I've wasted several days of my life that I will never get back to the surroundings of this stadium. Seriously, look at this. But I did make this cool entrance with fancy signs, so it's not all bad. that was worth all the time, maybe, probably. Going back inside the stadium, because I don't want to talk about what just happened ever again. You can see that the entrances don't really look like you can enter from them, so I made a detailed staircase going into an even more detailed concourse. Nah, just joshing ya. What I did do though is use the technique I used in another one of my videos and bring in negative light. If you change the value of the power to a negative number, the lamp will remove light. It's a lot less work for a possibly better result. Now, what is a stadium without a playing surface? A big pile of concrete. At first, I tried to use hair particles for the grass, but then my PC exploded, and it didn't even look good. So I literally just applied a Voronoi texture and a noise texture, which are both default textures in Blender, and the grass looked great. So it was a lot simpler than I made it out to be. Putting those electronic screens up was really easy, and I made a graphic to put on the screens that says, "Welcome to Bursa Marina Stadium," because I named the stadium Bursa Marina Stadium. It would have been weird if the sign said that and the stadium wasn't called Bursa Marina Stadium. I put the screens on the upper deck too. Now pretty much all that's left are the finishing touches, like the actual goal, putting letters in the seats, adding some details to the roof like floodlights and flags, and I'm pretty much done. Actually, I'm completely done. Here's the final render. Let me know how you like it, or don't, if it'll hurt my feelings. Goodbye.